Good evening, my name is Ren Wadsworth, and I'll be your moderator for tonight's 2022-2023 debate for the next speaker of the Senate for the Associated Students of Colorado State University. To begin, there are some rules for the debate. We will begin with an opening statement from each of the candidates and then move into a general and directed question phase where each candidate will have 1 minute for the introductions and for the questions. After that, we will have rebuttals available to the candidates if they feel they need to rebuttal to any of the other candidates' responses to the questions. To do so, the candidates will raise their hand and I will acknowledge them with a nod. If you go past your time for a question or your introduction, I will say please stop, or I will say thank you until you stop talking, but that won't happen. Additionally, we will be receiving questions throughout the night, and for those watching at home, you can submit questions through the live chat on the stream. Please make it clear in your question which candidate the question is going to be directed to. The chat will be moderated by members of the Elections Committee. Additionally, CTV does not endorse any specific candidate, but seeks to provide fair and equal coverage of all candidates. And with that, we will begin the introductions. Let's start with candidate Rithik Correa.
Hey y'all, my name is Rithik Correa. I also go by Rick if that makes it any easier. I use the he series of pronouns, and my whole campaign is based on vision, action, and results. I have a certain vision, that being every student voice represented, every student being associated with the Associated Students of Colorado State University, ASCSU. I have an action plan that I wish to implement to make sure every voice is heard, every opinion is shared, and I want to bring out results, which is why I say vision, action, and results. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to candidate Evan Welch.
Right, hello everyone, my name is Evan Welch, my pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm a senator for the College of Liberal Arts and also the chair of University Affairs, and I'm also running for Speaker of the Senate. So my 3 words for our transparency, community, and communication. I believe that those 3 things are truly the best way for a speaker to do their job, which is to facilitate the Senate meetings. So with those 3 things, will help strengthen ASCSU, make sure the Senate goes well, because I'll be transparent about what's going on. I'm going to try to build a very good community within ASCSU with the senators by working with each one, and also building a good community with outside of Senate. And with communication, I will be communicating everything. As Speaker, I will respond to every single email within 3 business days, and I'll be doing other things to communicate, like making sure the weekly email and the agenda is sent out at the appropriate time.
Thank you. And candidate Nick DeSalvo.
Hi everyone, my name is Nick DeSalvo. A little bit of background on me. At 17 years old, I ran for office in a local election and became the youngest person in Colorado history to ever be on a ballot. Currently, I serve on BSOF, the Board of Student Organization Funding for ASCSU, and I'm not in the Senate. I'm running on the platform of accountability, leadership, and active listening, and I'm really running to restructure the environment in the Senate. There are a lot of senators who have left over the course of the past 2 semesters, and I think that's evidenced by the toxic environment that exists within the Senate chambers. And I want to restructure the culture. I'm an outsider, and I'm willing to put the work in. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to some general questions for all the candidates. All right. So the question will be, as the Speaker of the Senate, you will be tasked with appointing the ASCSU Senate leadership. What makes an efficient Senate leadership team, and how will you choose members that will not only fulfill their roles in the Senate, but represent the goals and the needs of the student body as a whole?
So just to remember, that actually isn't correct. The Senate does get a vote on the Senate leadership. I don't get whoever becomes Speaker won't get a point at all, Senate leadership.
Thank you for the clarification. All right, with that, we will actually move on to the next question. All right. And this will again be for all candidates. Can you please give us an example of an issue on campus that you hope to solve during your time as Speaker? And we'll begin with candidate DeSalvo.
One of the issues that I kind of want to spearhead is accessibility on campus. From what I've heard is that it's difficult for disabled students to really have access to everything the university offers. And I think I have a little bit of background in knowing about this. My grandmother was a double amputee for the last 20 years of her life, and I went with her to a lot of places, and I knew that anywhere that wasn't handicap accessible, she could not go. Every student here at CSU should have access to everything that CSU offers, and so we have to make sure that everything here is not only up to ADA requirements, but it goes beyond the threshold to include everyone because they're in our family.
Thank you. Same question to you, Candidate Welch.
All right. So the issue I want to spearhead is to improve the community between ASCSU and CSU, because once that gets resolved and that's better, we'll be able to work on every single other project much better. Because as a speaker, I'm the one that's going to be helping senators work on accessibility and like maybe parking as well, U+2, everything. So my goal will be it's going to be to improve the community of Senate, so the senators want to work on projects, so that I can help them get these projects done. So I don't have any main project I want to spearhead, but I will suggest to many students about like parking, accessibility, Hughes lands back maybe, and other things like that, and maybe U+2, but hopefully we'll get more done on that as well.
Thank you. And the same question to you.
Yes. So when it comes to things that I'd like to spearhead, it's not mainly what I want, it's what the students of this university want. So I want to make sure I work as an effective liaison between students and those concerned to bring about those changes. Yes, I do have some of my own. I'm working on this project with Lyft to ensure that students with that aren't financially well get access to and from the health center, free rides using Lyft codes. I'm trying to get the door numbers in buildings Clark A, B, and C changed to make it more accessible for students. So all these small minor inconveniences that students face in their day-to-day life. And I'm also running my campaign based on this thing that, hey, I want your voice to be heard. Folks don't really know what ASCSU does, and ASCSU does serve as a liaison between them and the Board of Governors and the President, and I want their voices to be heard. So if they have an issue with campus, they have something that, hey, I can change this, they can come to me as speaker. I will ensure that I will bring their voices and represent their voices to the Board of Governors and the President.
Thank you. And then going off that question, a direct question for you is, how do you amplify the student voice as Speaker of the Senate?
What I want to do is make ASCSU more accessible to students. Most students don't know what ASCSU is or what ASCSU does. I remember when I was sitting outside for a vote, a couple students passed by and they were like, hey, what's going on inside the ASCSU chambers? And I'm like, hey, that's your student body government, but they had no idea about it. So my goal is that if every student knows what ASCSU does and what ASCSU can do, they will come up to the gallery, they will come up to senators like, hey, that guy is a senator, that person is a senator for my college, that person represents me, let me go talk to the person in order for them to go and raise my voice in Senate. Or if not, they could also come up and show up during gallery input. Gallery input is a place where folks can come to the ASCSU chambers and speak their voice out, speak their opinions out. A lot of times we don't find students there. So I want students to come up and represent themselves there.
Thank you. A question for you, DeSalvo. How do you view ASCSU's role in the student experience at CSU as a person who's not held a seat?
That's a good question. Kind of the impression that I've gotten is, especially at the vote of confidence, there was a little bit of hesitancy to allow me to run for this position because I'm outside of the Senate. And I think that's an issue, because if we want to say that ASCSU is for everyone, then it really should be open for everyone. And everyone is a part of ASCSU, every student. And I think it comes down to engaging them and making sure that their voices are heard, and making sure that they know what's going on in the Senate chambers. When my friends went to support me at the vote of confidence, the gallery was full. And I would love to see that on a weekly basis as speaker. And so reaching out to those students, letting them know what ASCSU is and what we do, I think that's important to ensuring that the organization is thriving and being watched and held accountable.
Thank you. I would like to ask you the same question, Candidate Welch. Did you want me to repeat it?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
what I was
How do you view ASCSU's role in the student experience at CSU?
Could you say it one more time? So
Yeah,
sorry.
of course. How do you view ASCSU's role in the student experience at CSU?
So I know that ASCSU, so we're truly the student's voice. So basically whatever the students want, like projects done, certain things to be done, like we are the voice for it. So with that, like I will helpfully work on people to get bills done and resolutions done. And if like there's a complaint to Joyce McConnell or a approval to Joyce McConnell, when I get to meet with the President Joyce McConnell, I will be bringing those things up and making sure the administration is aware of what's going on. So I will be truly a voice for the student body, and that is what ASCSU is, which is also a voice for the student body.
All right, thank you. And then we have a live stream question for all candidates. 2 years ago, legislative and executive branches did not get along too well. How would each of you ensure that a healthy relationship would be kept between both the executive and the legislative? We'll begin with candidate Correa.
Yes, so that's one issue I know that ASCSU faces, and I want more interbranch communication. One thing, it starts with, we usually have a fall retreat at the start of every academic year where everybody from all three departments, including the front desk and advisors, show up, and we have a good time together for a couple of days where we get to know each other, spend time with each other, discuss ideas with each other. The issue here being it's just at the start. It's not anywhere in the middle. And we need to have multiple such events where senators get to meet directors and deputy directors, senators and associate senators get to meet the president and the vice president, the senators, associate senators, vice president, and the presidents get to meet folks in the judicial branch so that we all come together and discuss ideas, because it's so separate at this point. That's okay, senators meet every Wednesday, the president comes and gives a report, the president's cabinet has a meeting earlier on Wednesday, and these three branches don't really meet or connect effectively. And my goal is to have multiple meetings, interbranch meetings, in order to ensure that everyone knows everyone and everyone knows what everyone else is offering in the space, so that communication and interbranch connectivity
All right, thank you. Sorry.
increases. Thank you.
All right, moving on to candidate Welch.
All right, so the way I plan on making this so legislative and executive have a good relationship like they did this year, unlike 2 years ago, is when each senator becomes a senator over the summer, I will be asking to have a one-on-one conversation with them, maybe with a career intense officer, maybe not because they don't have to work over the summer, and I'll be asking them what they want to work on. And once they explain to me what they want to work on, what they're thinking about, I'll be like, oh, this director actually works on that. Do you want to talk to this director? So I'll be making this, trying to make it so each senator might want to work with a director on a bill or a lex or a resolution and get more stuff done. So it'll be good for me to work with the president, vice president. I will do that, but I'm also going to make sure the senators want to work with the directors and directors want to work with the senators, just so they can work together and get more done, because then we can also use more money and then help students with more projects.
Thank you. And candidate DeSalvo.
I think one of the skills I bring to the table is the ability to, create really good relationships with people. And I think we're all in a unique position, whoever becomes speaker, that there's one presidential ticket. And so the relationship building starts now. And I'm very friendly with Rob and Elijah. And I've made it clear that I'd love to have a great working relationship with them. When it comes down to the students, I think it's what's necessary. The branches need to work together effectively, and to do that, it starts with relationship building, really doing the work in the summer so that when the first Senate session hits, that we could really hit the ground running for the academic year and start gauging the students' concerns and passing good legislation that helps them and benefits them. I think that's what's important.
Thank you. Alrighty, we're going to get a question from the audience.
Hey, y'all. My question, can everybody hear me? Cool. My question is, as a student at a land-grant institution, what does that mean to you, and how will you carry that, that meaning through your job?
Is that for all candidates? Okay, thank you. Alrighty, we'll start with candidate Welch.
All right, so what being part of a land-grant institution does mean to me is that, it means that, we don't have a great history. We are, unfortunately, on stolen land, which is where we get our education. But the grant was also made so that that is normal people could learn. So it's a kind of a two-edged sword. Like, I'm very grateful that we have this university, but unfortunately, having this university created hurt people that we can't repay. So I am aware of that, and I will be happily working on projects to make it so we can get more stuff done, because I think that's the best thing forward. I do know we do the land acknowledgement, but I feel like that's more performative, so I will definitely be working with senators on ways to make it so we do stuff that actually helps Native Americans and people that are indigenous to this area.
Thank you. Candidate Correa?
I'm going to keep that answer really short. I think when it comes to land grant acknowledgement, instead of just saying it, I think people need to understand what it means. Folks need to understand what it means. And it should be something that every single student of this university knows and upholds. Thank you.
Thank you. And Candidate DeSalvo?
There's nothing that I can say or do, or that this university can say or do, that will fix what happened 100 or 200 years ago to the Native Americans. Native Americans have a deep connection to the land, and that was uprooted from them. And I think making a promise and you know, saying these empty words, it really means nothing. But what I would do is work with the Native American Cultural Center and reach out to them and ask, you know, what can I do for you? What can I make your experience at ASCSU, but what can I do to make your experience at CSU better? What can I do within ASCSU? But what it boils down to is we can't remedy the past, but we can acknowledge and understand that what happened was far from okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Wald. And then there's going to be another question from the audience.
Okay, does this work? Okay, so I think that when ASCSU works best, it functions as a political voice for the entirety of the CSU student body. So what do you think that the Speaker of the Senate could do to make sure that ASCSU is visible and vocal, both for local government and state government?
Alrighty, and it's for all candidates again? Yeah. All right, just want to double check. Alrighty, we'll start with candidate DeSalvo again.
So one of my biggest things about starting this campaign is that I went to a Senate session and I saw that it wasn't exactly working well. There was animus among some of the senators, and it's difficult to have a good working relationship with people that you don't like. And I understand that you're not going to like everybody in life. Like, I'm not going to expect all the senators to be best friends and go out to ice cream after every Senate session, but I would expect civility. And with that as the baseline, I think we can have a much greater impact on not only the university level, but the local and the state level. I'm also in a unique position to where I'm friends with House Majority Leader Danae Esgar. And so if there's something that we would want to take statewide that we've done here that's good for students, I have those connections, and we could get the ball rolling on that.
Thank you. Candidate Welch?
So one of the things I'll make sure to continue doing is, so the Speaker of the Senate sits on the legislative advisory. It's called LSAB. Basically what they do is they are the group of people in ASCSU do this, and so as someone who gets to sit on there with 3 senators that will get elected, I'll be making sure to work on projects on the local government level, the state level, and maybe the national level that comes up. And by doing that, I will be going to events in our community and see what's going on, and I will let students know about these events just to make it so people are aware of it. And I'm going to help students with those events, or I'll help students with policies they want to enact from those events to help get it done wherever they plan on making it be enforced.
Thank you. And Candidate Correa, the same to you.
One of my main reasons to run as speaker was so that ASCSU can be unified and have one agenda, one focus, one ideology. I know that there might be some differences, and that's what a democracy is about. But I want the debate and discussion to have conclusions and have this one not politically, but I would say one opinion, one voice at the end of the day. When it comes to representing students at the state or local level, I know that our previous president did create this job, which basically functioned as a liaison between ASCSU and other governmental organizations, and I want to continue that. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another audience question.
So one of the can you hear me? So one of the reasons I chose CSU was because of all the green efforts. What are you going to do to improve sustainability at CSU?
We'll start with you, candidate Correa.
Okay, so I've already started doing that with my campaign. I'm running an entirely digital campaign. So I printed not more than 10 flyers, and I'm trying to ask people to scan QR codes so that they can follow me on Instagram. I'm doing this so that because I don't want to waste paper. It's one of my pet projects to make everything as digitally accessible as possible. I don't know what the university can make, but I know that there are a lot of things that the university can make possible. Not exactly what, but I do know what they can make, what can be made possible. And I that's my goal with the campaign, being, hey, can we go away from paper? Can we go away from plastic? And I know we can do that. And that's one of my third point. If you see my flyers or if you see my Instagram, you won't be able to see my flyers because they are just 10. But if you see my Instagram, my third point is environmentalism. And I want to stick to that, not just for the duration of my campaign, but even after, if elected as speaker, even after becoming speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. The same to you, candidate DeSalvo.
I may be incorrect in this, but I had read somewhere that the university plans on being fully powered by solar or renewable energy by 2030. And whatever I could do to make sure that, maybe we not only meet that goal, but we could be ahead of time with that goal. In addition to that, I want to work with the city of Fort Collins to make sure that the bike lanes are accessible to campus so that, if students choose to bike to campus, which is, of course, more environmentally friendly, they have the ability to do that in whichever road conditions there are. You'll notice when they plow the snow, a lot of the time they don't plow the bike lane. And I think that's an issue. And, we need to call them out on that. And we need a leader who's willing and able to do that.
Thank you. And candidate Welch.
All right, so as a speaker, I will be first, when I talk to all the senators, I'll be asking them if they want to help work on stuff dealing with the environment. And if they say yes, I'll going to talk to the Director of Environmental Affairs, make them get connected with them. And I'll be talking to clubs that deal in the environment to help them find out more ideas. Also, I will be talking to senators about maybe creating an environmental caucus, kind of similar to the diversity inclusion caucus or the women's caucus, just so more people can talk about ways to do sustainability and environmental stuff, just so we can get more stuff done. So I will be talking to senators about the best ways they want to do it and hear their voices and decide how to go forward in that process.
Thank you. All right, we have a live stream question for all candidates. That is, what work have you done to prepare and become qualified for the speaker role? And we will begin with candidate DeSalvo.
So the first thing I did before I signed up to run is that I read the rules, I read the bylaws, and I read the job description for Speaker of the Senate because I didn't want to go into a position blind or really a position that I didn't know exactly what it would entail. In addition to that, I think the Speaker has a real responsibility constitutionally as well as at controlling debate within the space of the Senate. And what I want to focus on is making sure that not only it's civil, but it's productive. And I think that's what's necessary. And I also want to take the role a step further in being even more of an advocate for students. Of course, the president and vice president are the major figureheads in relation to administration and the students, but the speaker also has a role in that, in meeting with administration. And so I think that's what I bring to the table.
Thank you. The same to candidate Welch.
And could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, of course. What work have you done to prepare and become qualified for the speaker role?
All right. So one of the main things I did was, first off, I became a senator just so I could get myself familiar with how ASCSU Senate works. I did that for about a year and 2 months, and also became the Affairs Committee, which is basically a lower version of Senate, we work on we work on the bills that are going to the floor, just so I could get more experience with how the Senate works. And since I've done that, I've also looked over Robert's Rules of Order, I've read the Constitution, I've looked over the job descriptions many times to make sure that I know what I'm doing, and after reading through all that and after gaining all my experience, I know what to do to get stuff done. But the biggest thing is scheduling stuff, because that's the one thing I found out over this last year. It's really hard to schedule stuff, so I'll be making sure that we schedule stuff early so we can actually meet and get stuff done.
Thank you. And the same to you, candidate Correa.
One of the main descriptions of what a speaker needs to do is maintaining decorum in the Senate, is acting as a liaison between students and the Board of Governors and students and the president. I've been a senator for the Office of International Programs for about 8 to 9 months now. Been there pretty much every single Wednesday, apart from breaks and university holidays. And I have a pretty good understanding of parliamentary procedure. I have a pretty good understanding of Robert's Rules of Order, something that is very important in conducting Senate activities, and which is also a goal of mine in order to ensure that every senator and associate senator and every member of the gallery has their voices put forward without a Senate going into complete chaos. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Before moving into our next general questions, just a reminder to the candidates, if you want a rebuttal, just to raise your hand. All right, this is a question for all candidates. Some students on campus still didn't know or don't know what ASCSU, as candidate Correa was speaking of earlier, and what its function is. How do you plan to make the work done in ASCSU more perceived and transparent to the general student body? And we'll begin with candidate Welch.
All right, so as we all know, Joyce McConnell sends out a lot of emails. So when I get to talk to her once a month, I will be pushing for her to send out an email about ASCSU, because I'm pretty sure those are student-wide emails, so more people will get aware of it. Also plan on doing smaller things like putting up posters next to the office that say what ASCSU is. And on the Senate website, I'm going to try to make it more clear. I'll be working with the parliamentarian and the front desk to make it so you can instantly find out exactly everything we're doing, the minutes, the bills we're working on, and like the former agendas, just so we know what's going on. And also I'll just be asking people like, hey, if you heard about ASCSU, please tell other people about ASCSU. And I think once we have a good community environment, people will do that. Because I know lately I haven't told people about ASCSU because it was unfortunately a toxic environment. So it's like, I don't really want to tell you all about it, but if we can make Senate a non-toxic environment, more people will talk about ASCSU, and it'll be thought about more, and more people want to get involved with it and get stuff done with it.
Thank you. Senator Correa, same question to you.
Yes, I have different ideas about that, mainly because most students don't read their emails. So sending out emails, especially the emails that we get from Joyce every week, are not fun. I know most students don't read it, which is why I want to make sure that every time we try to promote ASCSU, we are doing it in such a way that students actually find out what we are doing. One good way is when students are introduced to the CSU campus on day one, when they're going to their classes, going through their syllabus, just like we have, very important documents, like for example, Title IX. We have a specification of that in pretty much every introductory session of a class. Somewhere in the syllabus, I think something about ASCSU should also be there. It should be on the plaza. We do have a board that says ASCSU, but it's currently down right now. I don't understand why. I think we need to up our game on that. I also intend to collaborate with the Director of Marketing and ensure that all students know what ASCSU is and all students know what ASCSU does. I know Rams Against Hunger, for example, it's something that is in place over here because of ASCSU, and I want to make sure all folks that are using Rams Against Hunger know that, hey, this is done by ASCSU. So our future projects should be known that, hey, this is being done by ASCSU. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and the same question to you, candidate DeSalvo.
I don't want this to be a temporary thing. I want it to be a permanent thing. And so what I plan on doing is working with the executive branch during the period of RAM Welcome, where the freshmen are doing orientation, and they're in Canvas Stadium, and they're the big speeches, and it's really grandiose. But we have to make sure to mention what ASCSU is and how you could get involved in the student government. And once we build that relationship, then every freshman class after that freshman class that comes in will know what ASCSU is, what they do, and how to get involved. And I think that's probably the first step. And then next, we gotta just drill it into CSU students' heads that, if you want to see some change, you've got to get involved.
Thank you. All right, a direct question to candidate Welch. What does accountability and transparency look like as a Speaker of the Senate?
So accountability will be, if I make a mistake, I will take accountability for it, and I will and even if someone else in the leadership does make a mistake, I will also take a partly fault for it, because I feel like that's the best way to do it. Also, I will, with transparency, I will make sure that everyone knows exactly what I'm going on. As a speaker, you have to work 20 hours a week, and I will be writing down what I did for those 20 hours. Like, it might be, I talked to this person, or I worked on this thing, but I will make it so everyone gets to see what I did to make it more transparent. And yeah, those are my two things.
Thank you. Alrighty, we have a live stream question. In the past, speakers of the Senate have struggled to connect with the SDPS offices. How do you intend to connect with the offices and make sure their voices are heard? We'll start with candidate DeSalvo.
I think this is really why one of the main pillars of my campaign is active listening. Whoever it may be in the SDPS offices, I want to go before them and ask, what can ASCSU do for you? And I don't think it should be the other way around. I think we need to really build a collaborative relationship with the offices and make sure that those of marginalized communities are heard. And in addition to that, I'd also add non-traditional students. That goes into first-generation students, of course, immigrant students, things of that nature. But again, a lot of this stems back from building relationships and making those connections and being willing to listen.
Thank you. Candidate Welch, your response?
Yep, and could you repeat the question?
Of course. In the past, speakers of the Senate have struggled to connect with the SDPS offices. How do you intend to connect with the offices and make sure their voices are heard?
So when I first get elected, I will be emailing the director of each SCPS office and asking if I could meet with them for one time, just to see what projects are going on and how I can talk about them and stuff like that. And secondly, in the job description, it does say that I need to do a monthly meeting with all the SCPS senators about what's going on. And I will do that just so I can talk to those senators and know what's going on and help them. Also, I'm going to be doing this for every college council as well. And also, I'll be making this so they don't feel attacked. Unfortunately, that has happened before, where senators have attacked members of SCPS offices. So if stuff like that happens, I will be signing it down as speaker, so no attacks are made.
Thank you. And a rebuttal from candidate DeSalvo.
I wholeheartedly agree with the concept that we have to build a good relationship with the senators from the SDPS offices. But you had said you would meet with the offices once while you're elected, and personally, I don't think that's good enough.
So, sorry.
Sorry, let him finish.
We've got to be able to build a good relationship, and that doesn't come from just meeting once or twice. It comes from meeting on perhaps a monthly basis, if necessary, and I think that is what is necessary.
Did you have a rebuttal?
Yes, so it is in the job description for for speakers to meet with STPS offices once every month. So it's mandatory, it's not an option.
All right, and your rebuttal.
So the reason why, directors are extremely busy, and that's the reason why I said this, and in trial description to designated senators. I will happily be inviting the director every single time, but I feel like it's much more necessary for us to talk to the actual students. And so the directors, I will be contacting directors, but I will be first doing the senators so I can actually hear what the students' voices are. And again, I talked to people that created what they put on there. I understand where you're coming from with how you just want to talk to directors, but I think it is important for me to talk to the students as well. Also ask them if maybe I can attend a staff meeting if they allow it, but I will do stuff to make it so I can talk to the students first. I do want to talk to directors, but I want to talk to the students as well and make them really be the vocal point instead of the directors, who of course I will happily talk to as well.
Thank you. And the same question to you, candidate Correa.
Yes, so as an STPS senator myself, I work with the Office of International Programs. I represent them. I know how important it is for a speaker to be in constant communication with STPS offices. There are multiple STPS offices that are not represented in the ASCSU Senate. For example, the Women and Gender Advocacy Center. It's vital that they are represented. We need more women voices in our spaces. And if the Women and Gender Advocacy Center is not there, I don't know what we are doing. And I think as speaker, it is my job, it is my obligation to make sure that these voices are represented. And I'd also like to end with a slight rebuttal. I don't know if this would consider as a rebuttal. It's not immigrant students, it's international students. Thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty, moving on to our next live stream question for all candidates. How are you going to ensure an unbiased perspective where all voices are heard or not silenced and all opinions are addressed? And we'll begin with candidate Welch.
All right. So one of the things to make it so, like, with the unbiased thing, if unfortunately I do have a stake in it, I will be, with the discussion that's going on, and this will happen when the bylaws and the job descriptions are discussed, I will be taking a step down, and the Speaker Pro Tempore will be chairing to make it happen. Also, with the Robert's Rules of Order, the way they do it is they have, like, when we talk about a bill, they do the for, and then you go to the against instead of, like, going to, like, 3 fors and then 1 against. Just to make it so we can actually hear both of them. And if a anonymous attack is made or, like, someone is attacking another person, I will be explaining, going through the process in the bylaws of first saying this is a warning, don't do that again, this is why you're getting the strike. And the second time, I will be taking away their speaking rights when the second strike happens. And the third, I'll be asking them to leave the Senate chamber because of their third anonymous attack, and I'll be having a very long conversation about what they did, just to make it so that doesn't happen again. And that's how I'll be making it so people feel heard. Also, if there is a opposing, like,
Thank you.
Yep, sorry.
Candidate Correa, your response?
Could you please repeat that question?
Yeah, of course. How are you going to ensure an unbiased perspective where all voices are heard or not silenced and all opinions are addressed?
One thing I've noticed in Senate is whenever we discuss a bias-related incident, there's bias involved in that discussion, which is why I've already thought about, I want to form a committee, amend the Constitution basically to include a committee that would investigate and discuss bias-related events, and that would provide a report to Senate whenever requested. So, hey, if there's a bias-related incident, the incident would be referred to said committee. The said committee would provide a report to Senate within 2 business weeks, and that way we could ensure that bias-related events aren't being judged with a biased point of view. And that's how I intend to ensure that no bias-related events happen in Senate, and if they do, there will be a very unbiased review of that bias-related event. Thank you.
Thank you. And your response, candidate DeSalvo?
Well, it would be disingenuous to say that individuals don't have inherent biases. But I've served on BSOF for the past academic year, and what we do on that board is that we view organizations in a viewpoint neutral manner. And I think doing that for the past year has trained me to do that in practice. In addition, this is something that I've said from the start of my campaign, is that if we remove the the partisan garbage from the Senate and we focus on the actual legislation, incidents that include bias won't occur, feelings won't get hurt, and senators won't feel the need to step down because being in that environment is detrimental to their health. And I think that's important, and we need a speaker who has a history of doing that, opposed to a history of doing the opposite.
Thank you. We have a live stream question for Correa. How do you plan to ensure a safe space, for everyone when you previously attempted to remove speaking rights of a woman of color?
Well, thank you for whoever asked that question. That by motion to remove that said senator's speaking rights had nothing to do with her skin color. It had nothing to do with identity. It had to do with the comments that she made, not just this one time, but multiple times in the past. And I did have conversations with multiple senators regarding this. My reasoning for making that motion was to uphold the principles of this university, was to uphold equality, was to make sure every single voice was heard, not just put down a candidate because they belong to a fraternity, which is basically the entire situation over there. And I didn't want that to happen. I wanted that specific candidate's voice to be heard, which is why I made that motion in order to remove, which is why I said bias-related events are discussed with a view of bias, and I want to take away that bias from there, and which is why I made that motion. I knew that motion would not pass, but I wanted to make a statement saying that, hey, you can't just go on attacking people, and that's all I'd like to say for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Your rebuttal candidate, Welch?
So I'm just wondering, why didn't you instead ask the speaker if they could give that candidate the first strike for ad homine's attack instead, and then do the warning, and then if it happened again, then do the second strike for ad homine's attack?
I know for a fact that that wouldn't have happened because the legislative cabinet did not like the speaker, and you can see for a fact that the legislative cabinet tried to push the speaker away, as the speaker had different views from members of the legislative cabinet that you were a part of, and which is probably why you're asking me this question. I knew that that would never happen. The speaker would not make that decision, as things would go bad for the speaker as well. It did go bad, even though the speaker had nothing to do with this situation, which is why I decided to make the motion instead of going and directly talking to the speaker first, saying, hey, could you please make this? Because I know that would not happen. And these events have been happening on multiple such occasions, which is why I decided I had to step up in order to uphold the principles of this university.
Thank you. Your rebuttal candidate, DeSalvo?
I think this is the problem just in general. Albert Einstein is quoted as saying, we can't solve our problems using the same way of thinking that created them. And fortunately, I'm the only candidate that is not in the Senate currently, so I'm not in that environment. I'm not in that mindset. And so I think with that considered, I am making a commitment that those incidents won't happen. I won't tolerate it, and I won't stand for it, and there will be actual repercussions for folks who make other senators feel uncomfortable in that space.
Thank you. So along the same lines, a question for all candidates. Why should fraternity and sorority life receive Senate seats, and how will you manage the tension the Senate has felt from Greek life? We'll begin with candidate Welch.
So could you repeat the question one more time,
Yeah,
please?
definitely. Sorry if I speak a little fast. Why should fraternity and sorority life receive Senate seats, and how will you manage the tension the Senate has felt from Greek life?
So they don't actually get any seats, and so I apologize for any miscommunication from that. And so the way I plan, I want to make it so fraternity and sororities and ASCSU do get along. And so to do that, I feel like we need to understand that for fraternity and sororities, a lot of ASCSU members have, and a lot of the students in general, we have thought that they're the ones that controlled ASCSU. And then I got into ASCSU and I found it was the exact opposite. So I think both sides need to be aware that we don't actually know what's going on with the other side. We need to come to a common ground, kind of the same with RHA and ASCSU, and just begin talking and working through how to get stuff done.
Thank you. The same question to you, candidate Correa.
So currently, as candidate Ivan said, that Greek life, they do not have seats in the Senate. But what could happen is we could definitely have a liaison for IFC and the Pan-Hellenic Association. They could have a liaison to ASCSU who would be able to represent their voices in ASCSU. Because as I said, my whole campaign's running on the point that I want every single voice to be heard without bias or discrimination. And Greek life is also involved in that. Now, we could definitely make some amends and add fraternity and sorority seats in this in our space, but that depends. If the need arises, then we could definitely do that. But for time being, a liaison would function just as a senator without voting rights.
Thank you. And the same to you, candidate DeSalvo.
Fraternities and sororities do a great deal of philanthropic work, not only within the university community, but the Fort Collins community as well. And so I think building those connections, building those relationships with Greek life is important to really helping the community overall. Obviously, there are folks who want to get involved, and I don't think that's a bad thing by any means. And so whatever I can do to include them, build relationships with them, and make sure that they don't feel disconnected from ASCSU and their student government, I will do. And again, a lot of this just stems back to building those connections, building those relationships, and doing the work that students deserve.
Thank you. To sort of circle back on that question, I think a lot of you answered about the Senate seats, but how will you mention the tension the Senate has felt from Greek life? We'll begin again with Correa.
Again, as I said, I do intend on having a biased investigating committee so that if there are any such incidents that are to occur in the future, this committee would be able to investigate, provide a report within 2 business weeks, and then Senate would be able to decide on how we'd like to act on those. So I don't want to be the one acting. I don't want to be the one making decision. I want the senators and associate senators to be the ones making decision. I just want to act as that neutral ground over there that I can bring together and ensure that every voice over there, that the committee and the senators get along together and come to a decision that is the best for the space.
Thank you. Candidate DeSalvo?
You know, to manage the tension, we have to bring folks together rather than have this idea that, you know, we don't like Greek life, so we're not going to include them. And I understand everyone has their own personal reasons why they like or why they dislike Greek life, but we have to understand that you know, you gotta get to know someone before you dislike them. And so when we meet with those representatives from Greek life, I think we've just gotta approach it with a clear headspace and get together and, you know, have a genuine conversation about maybe some of the problems folks have with Greek life, but maybe get Greek life's perspective on why they haven't been involved in ASCSU and why that is.
Thank you. And Candidate Welch?
Yep, I think one of the things to help resolve the tension is like, as a senator, when I talk to each senator, I'll be like, hey, what's your thoughts on Greek life? Just so I can see what their thoughts are. And then when I talk to all the Greek life members and in leadership, I'll be like, hey, here is like the tensions, how the tension's coming from. Could you like explain to me like if this is true or not, like how we can resolve it? And then when I talk to the senators again, I'll like work through it. Because I think we do need to understand that there is unfortunately a tension there because of this like, unfortunately, like the bad press that's gotten from Greek life. And so we need to definitely have more conversations with them and like we need to work together more. And I think both sides basically, we need to with RHA, both sides need to come together and like we just have to have long talks with all the leadership from both sides.
Thank you. We have a question from the audience next.
So 1/3 of CSU students are food insecure. So how do we help support those students beyond just the RAM food pantry that's on campus? And how do we produce that food in a sustainable manner, in a local manner, and really help to feed our population of CSU and as well as Fort Collins as a whole? And an open-ended question to all candidates.
All right, we'll begin with Candidate Welch.
All right, so first off, we need to make sure people know about the food pantry. I think some people do, but not everyone. Secondly, we actually have 7 pocket food pantries that a lot of people don't know about. One of them is at the ASCSU office. There's like 6 other ones that I don't even know where they are. So we need to work on creating a map, and like I'll definitely talk to the executive branch about this. Because I feel like this is something that executive does need to do a lot more work with because this is a very certain topic. I think senators will happily work on it, and I will be working on it as well, and helping them with the projects. And also I'll be talking to the residence hall and dining, asking them like what they do with the extra food, and like asking them, hey, can you give this to the food pantry? If they don't, but I'm pretty sure they are now. And if they aren't, I'll be asking them, or I'll like ask a student like, hey, write a resolution telling these dining services to do this, and then I'll be like, when that is passed, I will happily give that resolution to dining services to be like, hey, ASCSU Senate wants you to do this, please do this, and I'll talk to you more about it, just so we can actually get that stuff done and communicate how to help students be less food insecure.
Thank you. Candidate Correa?
Yes, thank you for asking that question. So I, along with Director Benton Rosler and Deputy Director Sanskar Vyas, have been working extensively with this problem because it's a major problem. As I said, 1/3 of the students on campus face it. We've been talking with the Executive Director of Housing and Dining, Mary Strombaum, and trying to make sure that, hey, during the breaks, we need proper food facilities and not just burgers and fries for students. We need good food for them. That way we can ensure that every student has healthy food options on campus. We are also trying to separate break housing charges. It's currently $40 a day, $20 goes to RAM Cash, which you can use for food options at the dining halls. But we want to make that not so mandatory so that students have more control over where they want to eat so that they can get food for much cheaper prices elsewhere. We also have a bill currently pending in Senate that addresses these issues. I've also been trying to make sure that folks can get more access to dining hall food with Rams Against Hunger meal swipes, so not just the food pantry, but if need be, and they can go through the Office of Financial Aid and get these meal swipes so that they could use them at the dining halls and make sure that, hey, they fill their tummy. And that's my whole goal, is that no student has to wake up and think, hey, I don't have money for food. I want every student to go to bed with a full belly. Thank you.
Thank you. And candidate DeSalvo.
You know, I think we need a leader who understands. Some more background on me. I'm a first-generation college student, and I'm here entirely on financial aid. I get the full federal Pell Grant. My parents brought in a combined $30,000 last year. And this semester, I was faced with the difficult decision to where I could not pay my bill for college. And I looked for alternate routes to perhaps get rid of my meal plan entirely and just eat ramen noodles and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches because I could not justify the cost of eating at the dining halls. So I think first what we have to do is hold administration accountable and, you know, make them understand that before this university runs as a business, it has to run as an institution. We have to be focused on educating students rather than running this campus like a business. And unfortunately now it runs like a business. On top of that, of course, we have to support Rams Against Hunger because they do some really, really great work. And currently in BSOF, we're debating on what to do with our excess funds, and Rams Against Hunger is one of those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A question for all candidates. What is your perspective on the issue regarding empty Senate seats and the lack of representation within certain colleges, student offices, and other groups in the Senate? And how will you address the issue? Starting with candidate Correa.
Yes, as I've said earlier, one of the main things as Speaker of the Senate is to ensure every student voice is heard, and I intend on making sure that every college can send a certain number of representatives, that being senators and associate senators, and my goal is to make sure that every seat in the Senate chambers are filled, because if they're not filled, not every voice is going to be heard, not every student is going to be represented the way that they're supposed to be represented. I did start this campaign because I knew that a lot, my office, my STPS office, the Office of International Programs, failed to find senators for some time, and now I'm hopeful to find a new senator for the Office of International Programs. My goal with it is to ensure I have these meetings, not monthly, but at least bi-monthly, and get more representation. I know there are only 7 candidates running for senators this year, which is sad. And my goal is, after I become a speaker, if it's still the same, I go to these college councils and be like, hey, I need y'all to send someone to represent your students. That's my goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate DeSalvo.
We really have to get to the root of the problem with this issue. And this goes into why there's such a high turnover rate in the Senate. It's because it's an environment that a lot of people don't find welcoming. And so, you know, we have to completely restructure the environment within the Senate, which is something that I've focused on. It's why I got involved in this campaign. Of course, we have to reach out to the SDPS offices to make sure that we get senators who are going to represent those voices. But we also have to make the student body aware that you know, they have to have a voice in their student government, and it's important to do that. And so not only do we have to build new relationships, but try to repair old ones that kind of got broken in the past.
Thank you. Candidate Welch, your response?
Yeah, so what I'm saying is very similar to the other 2 candidates and I think that's great. All 3 of us are realizing that the ASCSU Senate, unfortunately, has been toxic. And that's something that we need to improve on, and that's going to be one of the first things I work on, is improving Senate so people actually want to join, because no one wants to join, or 7 people want to join ASCSU Senate from mine, and then some other senators from other thing. From SCPS offices, that's where another group is, because they don't have elections, so hopefully some of them will be there too. So my goal is to meet with every single college council and every single SCPS office after election, and asking them, first off, how to get senators, more people to join, so we can at least have a good amount of people in Senate by the end of the year. And secondly, I will be working my butt off to make it so it's a safer community inside ASU Senate, so more people want to join, more people want to get in there, and by doing that, I will happily work with the senators to make that happen.
Your rebuttal?
My other two candidates are within the Senate, and these words are great, Mr. Welch, but you're within the Senate already, and so if you have ideas on how to restructure it and make it a better environment, why haven't you done so?
Can I respond? So
Yes.
this is going to really annoy someone, but it is unfortunately because of the former Speaker of the Senate. Because of how they did stuff, I could not work under them. I did have burnout from it, and that is why I had asked them to resign. Unfortunately, because we had such a Senate was leadership in the top three, was very poor, and a lot of people didn't want to be in ASCSU, I just couldn't get anything done. I was exhausted every single Senate session. I literally, for like 2 months, I could not stand going to Senate. For me, even I had burnout. So unfortunately, I couldn't get anything done because it was so toxic, I couldn't even do anything. Once the speaker did step down, I have started working on more stuff because I was happy that lift was finally lifted off of me, so I was able to get stuff done. So I do apologize that I haven't gotten that much stuff done, but unfortunately, it's because I was in an environment that was extremely toxic. So I unfortunately couldn't get stuff done. I had no one, even my first year, no one really talked to me, helped me get free stuff done. I had to do most of that myself, first experience in Senate was extremely toxic. So I do apologize to all the people, they do see I'm a second year, and I haven't improved, and I deeply apologize.
Thank
But
you.
as Speaker, I will try to fix that.
Thank you. Your rebuttal, Correa?
Yes, I would just like to say this. The Speaker of the Senate, the former Speaker of the Senate tried to keep Senate accountable to students. And when members of our legislative cabinet didn't want to do so, they tried to kick him out. So I wouldn't say that this former Speaker was toxic. I'd say the former Speaker tried to keep Senate accountable with, hey, send in your R's. What did you do this week? Hey, all senators need to bring in at least one lex, one resolution, or one bill, which the members of the legislative cabinet specifically try to take away. And now senators aren't required to do anything. Senators aren't required to send in their R's. Even if senators don't show up, earlier they used to get a text. It used to go to their directors. It used to go to the college councils. It doesn't happen anymore because your legislative cabinet.
The three people in charge are parliamentarians, Speaker, President Poor, and
Let me
Speaker.
finish.
As
Let
a
me
committee
finish.
chair, I don't have anything
yeah,
to do with
let
that.
him.
Let
But
me
I do.
finish. Your legislative cabinet tried your level best to put the former speaker out because y'all didn't want to be accountable to the students. Thank you.
And we actually are concluding for this half of the debate. We'll now be going into a 15-minute break. The remaining live stream questions will be answered in the second half, and you can send in more questions during the live stream via the chat in the live stream. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back from the breaks. This is the 2022-2023 debate for the Speaker of the Senate at the ASCSU here at Colorado State University. Alrighty, to start off with a question for all the candidates. How will you create an environment that facilitates growth and encourages people to stay involved in ASCSU? We'll start with candidate Welch.
All right, so can you repeat the question one more time?
Of course. How will you create an environment that facilitates growth and encourages people to stay involved in ASCSU?
So I think one good way is by communicating with them, as I've said before, and like talking with the students, with the senators, and like asking what they are interested in doing, and then working with them through it. And also, if there is unfortunately conflict that arises, I will be asking for judicial's help, the advisors' help, and if needed, the Student Resolution Center's help, just so we can work. If we can't get along, we need to work on finding ways to make it so we can get along and like learn new ways. Because I think if we can get along, many more people want to stay in ASCSU Senate.
Candidate DeSalvo?
I would like to say, first off, that once bridges are, broken, it's somewhat difficult to repair them. So we have to acknowledge that bridges in the past were broken, and it may be difficult to repair. But I'm no stranger to a challenge, and I'm willing to put in the work to do it. I think a lot of this stems from, as far as getting people involved in ASCSU, is letting them know what impact they could have initially. And then on top of that, when they're in the space of ASCSU, making sure that it's an environment where we all know each other and we could all get along and discuss things civilly. There's a problem currently with such a high turnover rate that senators won't know who other senators are, and I think that's really problematic when you're in a working environment. You should be able to know who you're working with and who you're legislating with. And so I think that's really one of the major solutions to the problem is just, again, building connections and relationships and getting to know each other on a personal basis.
Thank you. And candidate Correa?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Of course. How will you create an environment that facilitates growth and encourages people to stay involved in ASCSU?
First of all, I'm going to ask all the senators and associate senators to write a mission statement based on what their goals are, what they want to do. And that's how I get a good understanding of how they would like to progress in the space, give them those avenues, those opportunities to progress in the space. We had this provision where every senator and associate senator had to bring about at least one bill, resolution, or a lex in their job descriptions, which was taken away, reducing their accountability to students. I want to make sure that everyone in that space is more accountable to students. That would also ensure that they grow, they learn, and they actually put in that effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Your rebuttal.
And so this is just to the thing with the bills. So like I understand like we definitely want people to write bills, but I feel like if we have 40 people have to write bills each semester, we'll have a lot more quantity over quality. I fully agree that like we need to encourage senators to write bills, and I'll be working on that, and I know you will too. But I think we might want to like try to maybe make it maybe like one bill every two, like maybe like I don't really think we should maybe look at making it required, but like we need to maybe make it a little less big, like not just one per semester, maybe a year or something.
Yes, to my reply to that is if we don't bring bills and resolutions, what's the point of having ASCSU? I'd rather have people represent their voices than be like, oh, I don't want to work. I'd rather sit there late at night and work for the students than not do so. So the more bills and resolutions support, the more student voices are represented. And I also want students to come up and see the difference we make with these bills and be like, hey, I want to make this change. Here's a bill I propose. Here's a resolution I propose. Thank you.
Thank you. You've all mentioned the toxic environment of the Senate space. What are some specific initiatives and timelines you wish to address this with? Candidate DeSalvo?
So I've talked a lot about in the summer really hitting the ground running and building those relationships. There's also the retreat where we're able to build those relationships as well. But as far as timeline based, I want to do it as soon as possible. Perhaps even right after I'm elected, reaching out to the senators, letting them know who I am, and getting their perspective on the issues, especially in regard to the toxic environment in the Senate. And, you know, additionally, I think I have the unique position in doing that because I'm from outside of the Senate. I'm not in the mindset of the Senate. And I think, unfortunately, what you saw before the break was, you know, a symptom of what happens when you're in that Senate environment.
Thank you. You have a rebuttal?
Yes, I do. So if you would like to have this retreat before the summer, it would be pretty much impossible because the Senate chambers won't be full at that time. It's not going to be full. Who are you going to take on the retreat? Who are you going to bring about together? It takes time for once the president's elected to elect members of the cabinet position, which I'm assuming you don't know since you're not from this space. Certain things, even though I do agree you're more than eligible to become a speaker, what I do fear is you don't know how the space works, how things inside work. When it comes to fall retreats, you would be responsible in having a say in, hey, how things goes during the fall retreat. And I'm also afraid that since you've never been in one of these events, I'm afraid how would you bring about closure if you don't know how these things are conducted in the first place, if you don't know the timeline between when you can and cannot conduct this retreat.
Thank you. Your response, DeSalvo?
Unfortunately, Mr. Correa, I believe you misheard me. I didn't claim that the retreat would be during the summer. I'd said that I would want to get work done during the summer and, in fact, right after I'm elected. So I'm glad you're passionate about this issue and you disagree with me on the basics of whether or not I'm qualified to run, but I personally believe that I'm entirely qualified to run. So thank you for your concern.
Thank you. Coming back to the question and to ask it again, you have all mentioned the toxic environment of the Senate space. What are some specific initiatives and timelines you wish to address this with? Candidate Correa, your response?
Yes, as I said earlier, I've decided that I want to make a committee that would investigate such issues and provide a report to the Senate within 2 business weeks. This would ensure that there would be an unbiased overview of such incidents, making sure that ensuring that however we deal with the situations, we bring about a fair result, and that no one feels left out, no one feels that their voices haven't been heard. I also want to make sure that with the progress I will make with this committee, that future senators and associate senators will have this space where they know that they can say the right stuff and not have to worry about bias being anybody being biased towards them. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Welch, your response?
All right, so I basically almost scanned me word for what Mr. DeSalvo?
Yep.
DeSalvo said. Excellent what he said about working on improving it with talking to all the senators. I'll also plan on talking to the college councils and the SPS offices, asking about how do they feel about ASCSU and what can I do to make it so we can actually connect with each other. And also we need to really lately we've been broadcasting everything to ASCSU, the blue books. They have our name on them. President Dixon and Vice President Gabrisatic, they were on the Jumbotron at a football game and on the basketball game. So people do know we exist, but I think we need to show that we're not some up and tight politicians, but we are students just like them, so that they feel welcome to come into the office and not to ask for directions or for a mask, but ask about ASCSU and how to get involved, or just what we're doing, so they feel.
Thank you. The next question for all candidates is, how will you uphold the university's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion without shifting the responsibility onto SDPS offices? And we'll start with you, Welch.
So the way to do that is this is why I just want to talk to senators, that's why I think it's important to have your main focus when you do these meetings with SDPS offices, is just to meet with the senators, just to see where they're coming from and do some work with them, because I fully agree that the work mostly still rely on Senate leadership and the speaker. So I will be going to events that will help with diversity, including equity. I'll go to that type of stuff. And I will find ways to improve in ASCSU myself. Obviously ask questions, and if I'm stuck or if I'm having trouble, I will ask for help. But I do believe that should be on the shoulders of the speaker, and I will be doing that. And by a different way, I'll try to make it a more welcoming space for those identities.
Thank you. Candidate DeSalvo?
I think you really have to go. You have to go to those spaces, and you really have to listen I kind of shared this story during the vote of confidence, but I grew up on the east side of Pueblo with a very large Hispanic community, and I had a best friend named Feliciano, who was a first-generation American, and his parents were from Mexico, and they had a lot on their plate, but I always had a space there in their home, and there were times where they'd invite me to functions and cookouts, and I'd be the only white boy there. But they never made me feel left out, and they made me feel like one of their own. And if we could create a community like that at CSU, I think we're on track, but there's always work to do. And I want to be able to do that work. And I think just my previous experience doing that kind of gives me the edge in that regard.
Candidate Correa?
Could you please repeat the question?
Of course. How will you uphold the university's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion without shifting the responsibility to SDPS offices?
Thank you. So as an SDPS senator myself, I can say that is it's a much welcome question. I think these responsibilities need to be shifted to other senators and associate senators, and not just senators, but students in general. And this being said, with diversity, every single voice, not just specific targeted communities, but every single voice, regardless of your background, should be heard, and no one should be suppressed over there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question was emailed in for Correa and Welch, and it says, you've each served in the ASCSU Senate. What tangible outcomes do you have from your services that have benefited the entire student body? I'll begin with Correa.
So I'm going to start with this one thing that I'm really proud of. During the last fall break, when they were supposed to just have the expresses open for students that were going to live on campus, I made sure that we kind of put that pressure on housing and dining to be like, hey, we need the dining halls open. So, which is why Ramson was open and students were able to access healthier food services. And I knew that if me, along with Director Rossler and Deputy Director Scar, didn't make that change, then students would still be eating crappy pizzas and burgers for dinner. And I'm also currently working on other initiatives over that, as I mentioned earlier, one of which is free transportation to and from the health center. Being my pet project, I know I've personally faced difficulties as an international student. I just got my license like 2 weeks ago. Woohoo! It took me years since back home we drive on the opposite side of the road. So I know international students face difficulties in having their own vehicles, and they need adequate transportation avenues, and which is why I'm working there. That way I'm also representing my constituents while also not leaving out other folks in the CSU community. Thank you.
Thank you.
And could you repeat the question, please?
Of course. You've each served in the ASCSU Senate. What tangible outcomes do you have from your services that have benefited the entire student body?
So unfortunately, when I was last year in Senate, because of COVID, I had to learn a lot. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get a lot of work done. But I did learn, and so unfortunately, it was a year that I was in Senate, but I didn't get a lot done. Then my second year, now I'm the University Affairs Chair, and so I've been working hard to look over bills in legislation that get passed and go into Senate. And also, I have helped in Senate leadership schedule timing because unfortunately that was an issue, and I did help do that. I wish I did do a lot more than I did, and as Speaker, I do want to do even more because I do not think I've done enough, and I do plan on helping senators run even more projects so we can get more done to help the students in CSU.
Thank you. All right, a live stream question asks you all, how do you plan to ensure a form of student oversight on the CSU administration and ensure they hold up to concerns and demands by the student body? I'll start with candidate DeSalvo.
So, of course, all this is reliant on the students knowing what ASCSU is and what ASCSU does. So let's imagine we have that problem solved and that the students come to their senators and let them know what their concerns are. And of course, the Speaker of the Senate meets with President McConnell monthly. And so with that in mind, I want open communication between the senators and I to where the students' voices, their constituents' voices are heard and they're communicated to me. And of course, let's cut out the middleman And you could tell me directly as a student. You could email me and let me know what your concerns are, and I will surely hold administration accountable. I'd love to have a great working relationship with President McConnell and administration, but I think I really have the backbone to be able to hold them accountable when it needs to happen. And so I think that's what I bring to the table.
Thank you. Candidate Welch?
So I plan on doing the same thing. I'll be asking for, well, when I work on improving the ASCSU community with CSU, I'll be asking students a question, but like, do you want to say anything about to Joyce McConnell? Like, there's events going on with like huge land at a climate strike. Another thing was about like diverting the funds to the oil and gas. So if like there's a petition, when I talk to Joyce McConnell, I'll bring that petition and be like, hey, this many students want this to happen. Could you maybe look into it? And also, I plan on not just talking to Joyce McConnell. There's other people in administration. I'll be sending an email and like asking if I can meet with them as well, just so I can get a working relationship with each person in administration. So when an issue that like more than what their wheelhouse and what they work on, I'll be able to talk to them about that certain issue, and I won't always have to go through Joyce McConnell to then talk to that position in CSU, and still be able to talk right to that person in CSU administration about the issue.
Thank you. Candidate Correa?
Yeah, could you please repeat the question?
Of course. How do you plan to ensure a form of student oversight on the CSU administration and ensure they hold up to concerns and demands by the student body?
So, correct me if I'm wrong, student body, not the administration, right?
It was a live stream question, so I'm not sure.
Okay. So if it's a student body, yes. As I said, my goal is to make sure that every senator and associate senator brings at least one legislation on board. That way they are representing student voices effectively. And since I don't know if the question is directed towards ASCSU or the CSU administration, I'm going to answer that as well. As speaker, I will be meeting with the Board of Governors and Joyce McConnell. It's part of my job description. I will be meeting with them once in a while, and that's my whole goal with I want to represent student voices. I want to make sure that the administration actually listens. I want to make sure that the administration actually listens to resolutions passed by ASCSU, because I have noticed that sometimes they are sidelined, and the speaker is your best bet at making sure that administration listens to ASCSU. And when I say ASCSU, I mean every single student on campus, because even if you take one credit on campus, you are an ASCSU member. So I want to make sure administration listens to ASCSU, and with my monthly meetings with them, I will try to do so. And we'll keep campus updated about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Another live stream question for you all. A problem that ASCSU has struggled with for a long time now is how little the student body is engaged with ASCSU. As speaker, how do you plan to inform the student population on what ASCSU does? We'll begin with candidate Welch.
So to let students know what's going on, I probably will do things similar to what the president and vice president are doing, like having meetings with, like, I'm pretty sure they met with athletics. I'll be trying to do stuff like that with the executive. They also got to present on the jumbotrons in different stadiums. I'll be making sure to do that stuff too, because I think that really works. It's just right now we don't have a good community, so no one cares about ASCSU, but I plan on making sure people care about ASCSU. So once they care about ASCSU and they know what we do, they'll be listening to those presentations, they'll be listening to those billboards, and so they'll actually want to get involved. So I'll probably continue what they're doing. Also email the dean of each college and ask, hey, can you send like a quick email to all your teachers to tell all their students about ASCSU and what it does, just so then teachers are also telling the students about what's going on.
Thank you. Candidate Correa.
First thing is I try to ensure that every student knows that they are actually ASCSU members, that their student fees actually come to us, and I believe most of them have an oversight with BSOF. Correct me if I'm wrong. Nick, BSOF handles most of the student fees, right?
The Student Fee Review Board does a lot, but BSOF runs off of student fees.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, I want to let them know that your student fees we have some control over them, and if you want to act up, if you want to decide on how your student fee dollars are being used, then it will be best if you voice your opinions out at ASCSU. I would also like every teacher to have it, for it to be mandatory, that every professor and instructor have it in their syllabus that, hey, there's this thing ASCSU, it's your student body. I'd also like every initiative that ASCSU does. For example, we have these small cards that say, please turn off the light by ASCSU. That way students know that ASCSU is actually doing something. Senator Charlie Williamson also brought this bill where gender-neutral bathrooms can be searched through QR codes, and there's a QR code, and at the bottom it says by ASCSU. So I want these initiatives to be done with ASCSU sticker, that the students know what ASCSU does, and that if they want something similar, they can contact ASCSU. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate DeSalvo.
I hate to be repetitive here, but of course the idea of including freshmen, but really even before that, when we're giving tours to prospective students, letting them know that ASCSU does have a government that they could get involved in, and we want to open our doors to everyone, no matter what class you are or how you're coming in. I really didn't know that I could become a senator or associate senator early in the year, and that's why I didn't do it. And so, once we make students aware that they can get involved, I think they will get involved. But as of now, that's not happening. That's not happening, and we've got to make it happen.
Thank you. All right. Another live stream question. What qualities or skills do you possess that would be most beneficial to both ASCSU and the CSU community that set you apart as a candidate for speaker? Candidate Correa.
Thank you. I think one of the best qualities that a speaker needs is staying neutral. Now, as a senator, I'm not going to stay neutral. I'm going to voice my opinions, definitely. As a speaker too, I am going to voice my opinions, but when I'm in the chamber, I think I have the ability to control that space and make sure that the arguments, the discussions stay germane and they don't deviate from topic. One of the main reasons we have to put in late nights is because discussions don't stay where they need to stay and we come out with zero results. As speaker, I want to ensure that every single discussion and debate stays germane, stays within the confines of how they should and should not be discussed. Also ensuring that my viewpoint while I'm chairing Senate is kept neutral. I think that would be the best way to conduct Senate. That would be the best way that I would be able to contribute. The best possible way that I can contribute is staying neutral. So that's how I would like to contribute. Oh, why did I say that so many times? Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate DeSalvo.
I think the obvious thing that sets me apart is that, of course, I'm not in the Senate. But, of course, I did run for office at 17 years old. And it wasn't like I was running against 19 and 20 and 21-year-olds. I was running against candidates from ages 17, which was me, to, I think, 72. I was taking on the biggest business leaders in my community with much deeper pockets than me, but I wasn't afraid. And we need a leader who's not afraid to take on administration, take on city officials, and we need someone who's able to build relationships within the Senate chambers as well. And I think that's what sets me apart. That's what makes me unique. And I think that's why you should vote Nick DeSalvo for Speaker.
Thank you. Candidate Welch.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Of course. What qualities or skills do you possess that would be most beneficial to both ASCSU and the CSU community and that set you apart as a candidate for speaker?
I think that would probably be that how passionate I am for the students at CSU. Like everything, whenever I get, like, I am very passionate about helping the CSU students. I want to help in any way I can. And like, because of that, like when I talk to administration, I'll be very much saying like, please help the students, or probably not included, but like you need to help students because they give you money. And also, because of my passion to help the students, I will like try to remain neutral in certain settings when I am speaker, and I'll help all the students, all the senators when they come in and like what bills they want to work on. I will happily help each one, even if I like actually disagree with like what they're writing. I will still happily help them because I'm like, this might be a good idea. It should be seen on the floor, and even if I'm against it, I will still, they won't know it, but I will happily help those students, those senators, working on those projects because I'm very passionate about helping ASCSU and CSU, and I'll happily help other people, which are going to be senators, who are also passionate about helping CSU.
Thank you. Question for all candidates is it's noted that the Student Fee Review Board is responsible for allocating nearly $64 million a year across many different outlets. As speaker, you'll be a part of this board. So how do you feel your presence and opinion can make a difference, and how do you plan on holding them accountable? We'll be on with candidate DeSalvo.
So the speaker, actually can't chair it because of the executive position. So I am a member of it as not a speaker. I'm just a senator, but actually the speaker of the Senate cannot be on the SFRB board.
All right, thank you for the clarification. We'll move to an audience question.
For everyone. So my question is for all of y'all. When it came to the parameter of requiring each senator and associate senator to write one piece of legislation a semester, if the consensus of the Senate remains the same and they would not like to do that, what are y'all's plans to make sure that that senators are excited about writing legislation and just like the facilitation of that, just from a senator, as someone who is a senator, yeah.
All right, we'll go with candidate Welch.
So the way I plan on doing that is when I talk to each senator, I will ask them what they want to work on. Also, I've been going to many events to find out like what people care about. It's like stuff like when I went to the climate strike, I found out a bunch of stuff about like what people want to change in the environment. Also, I'm aware about what's happening in parking. Like people want to fix that. There's U+2. There's housing and dining services. So if a senator like suggests, oh, I kind of want to maybe do this, I will work to make sure I get those resources available for them to find out more to work on this stuff. So if a senator has like any small idea, my job and the Speaker Pro Tempore and maybe the parliamentarian, we'll be working on making sure that they're able to have the resources to work on those bills and those bills and resolutions to get more done, and so it's easier for them to work on that stuff.
Candidate Correa?
As I said earlier, I'm going to ask every senator and associate senator to write me a mission statement. That way I know what they want to do. That way they know what they want to do. And they can definitely focus on that and write resolutions and bills. And obviously, since it's their mission statement, since it's something that they are passionate about, they will write it wholeheartedly. They will bring it on the floor wholeheartedly. And once they see the impact that that bill has made, they won't stop. I had my first bill, it wasn't even passed. I specifically requested it to be tabled indefinitely because we didn't need to pass at that point, but the impact that that bill made even before it was passed was massive. It was immaculate, and which is why I'm sitting here today. So once senators and associate senators put forward a bill that makes a difference, they're not going to stop. They're going to want to do it. And since their first bill, I'm assuming, would be at par with their mission statement, they would want to do it wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate DeSalvo?
Well, thank you for the question, Ben. And to answer the question, as Speaker, I'm not going to be a dictator. I'm going to be a figurehead for the Senate. And if it's the Senate's consensus that they don't want it to be a requirement that you have to write a bill, I'm not going to force them to do that. At the end of the day, I want senators who are committed to working and making the space run efficiently. And if that doesn't include every single person writing a piece of legislation, then I'm fine with that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I want people who are dedicated to the work, who want to be there, and you know, that's the goal. We shouldn't be focused on quantity, but we should be focused on quality.
Thank you. A live stream question for all candidates. How would you ensure fiscal responsibility in Senate leadership and avoid a financial deficit like this past year? We'll begin with candidate Correa.
Thank you for the question. So I'm definitely going to start with, we do have an accountant. The accountant has a huge responsibility with regards to finances. They do have advice that they could give on such situations. I believe this question is specifically regarding the plaque bill that was still tabled indefinitely, but it was an extra expenditure that was not accounted for. And I think if we get the accountant more involved, basically people that don't come to Senate but are associated with the ASCSU that work, let's say the front desk staff, the accountants, and everybody else are more involved in ASCSU processes, in our bills that we pass, in the budgeting, in the finance, making sure that every expenditure is uploaded on our website. Our websites have been pretty much outdated since forever, and I think having them updated up to date would keep everybody at par with how finances are running inside the space, and that way we would bring about more accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Welch?
Could you repeat the question, please?
course? How would you ensure fiscal responsibility in the Senate leadership and avoid a financial deficit like this past year?
So first off, there's $100,000 which is used to do bills and that were made for bills. And so I will make sure that like that document is available to everyone. And so if a student thinking about stuff, they'll be able to see what's going on. Then in Senate leadership, if I as speaker or if anyone else in Senate leadership wants to spend money, that will only be for the Senate leadership, which is about, I think, $1,500. We actually need to get a vote by Senate leadership just to make sure it's more clear. So I'll be making sure that happens. I won't spend any money without Senate leadership's approval. And I'll make sure it's the right amount of money. In case I'm confused, I'll make sure like it's documented that this is the amount of money. So if we agree like it'll be this amount, but like it actually got charged more, I'll be like, no, you said it was this amount. So I'll make sure that anything in money will be written in paper, just so I can have the clear receipts, and I'll make sure that Senate leadership votes on what's going to be decided, what's going to be spent from the Senate leadership budget.
Thank you. Candidate DeSalvo?
You know, I would really just echo what the other candidates are saying. The thing I'd add, and again, not to be repetitive, but a lot of this comes down to reshaping the culture within the Senate of taking fiscal responsibility seriously. I know how expensive college is. And, you know, our government functions off of student dollars. And to spend those student dollars irresponsibly is unconscionable. You know, students should be able to trust that their money is going towards things that will benefit them ultimately. And so with that in mind, you know, we have to have real accountability, some oversight in that regard. And, you know, the buck stops with me. I'll make sure that the Senate is being fiscally responsible.
Thank you. Question for all candidates. How will you balance the need to protect from ad hominem attacks and not silence valid criticism? We're going with candidate Welch.
So to make sure that happens, I plan on like doing research myself on like what is an ad hominem attack, and also like I'll try to find like research, like try to find examples of it happening before, just so I know what to expect. Because I do very much agree that like we need to do balance, and also like I will reach out to like the administration and to our ASCSU advisors and be like, and ask them like how they think it's to be done. Because unfortunately, I don't have a perfect answer. I do think I could do a fairly good job. I don't think I'll do a perfect job. So I do want to do more work, but I do know I will know exactly what ad hominem attack is. And if they do something slightly, or if like I feel like something's being said might be kind of off, I will let them know, hey, don't say that, or try not to say that, like say this instead, because you might be silencing another group voice, and like because I don't want to silence another voice. So I'll make sure to inform the person saying what they're saying, what they might be doing right away, so that nothing major will happen, and trying to stop it in its tracks before it snowballs.
All right. Candidate DeSalvo?
You know, we need a no tolerance policy for any type of personal attacks that senators or alike will hurl at one another. And again, it all stems down to if we know each other personally, you know, we should be able to get along. Again, I want to have vigorous discussions about debate and real deep conversations at the root of legislation. But the Senate has no room, no space for dirty, cheap attacks because you're in a political position and you feel like you have the ability to make those attacks. I won't tolerate it as Speaker, and you know that's the bottom line. It won't be tolerated.
Thank you. Candidate Correa?
I think it starts off with people realizing what ad hominem attacks are. Let's say this person XYZ over there. I'm like, hey, XYZ is dumb. That's an ad hominem attack. If I say, hey, XYZ, I think you're wrong because blah, 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 that is valid criticism. And I've noticed that Senate has failed to realize valid criticism from ad hominem attacks, basically going and quoting every single disagreement as an ad hominem attack. I think educating senators during our retreat, our fall retreat, would definitely make an impact. And as I said, I would like to have multiple such retreats, if not as grand as our fall retreat, but somewhere in the middle of the semester, maybe twice a semester, That way we can keep refreshing on, hey, what is an ad hominem attack? What is something that we're not supposed to say, but how does it differentiate from valid criticism? That's where I'd like to take it. Thank you.
Thank you. For all candidates again, what is an issue on campus that is not talked about enough, and how will you bring light to this issue? Starting with candidate Correa.
A lot of student issues. I mean, pretty much every single student issue that particular identities, organizations face are not talked about. And ASCSU would be one place where, since most STPS offices represent minority groups, since most college councils represent specific colleges, every single student on campus is represented. There are multiple issues that are just sidelined every single year that should be brought to the attention of every single one on campus. And when we involve in outreach, when we tell students, hey, this is what ASCSU is and this is what it does, students can come up to us and be like, hey, these are issues. I would like ASCSU to take them to a whole another level. We can do that. We want to do that. It's all up to if students know that we can do that. So that outreach aspect does lie here, which is one of my goals of my campaign, is outreach, letting students know that ASCSU is there for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Welch.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yep, of course. What is an issue on campus that is not talked about enough, and how will you bring light to this issue?
So first off, I feel like most issues unfortunately aren't talked enough, but I feel one that I feel like might want to be talked more. Maybe two is students aren't feeling safe on the plaza, so I do want to talk to administration about that, and if I can maybe ask administration to talk to the groups of people that are making those students uncomfortable. And the second one is maybe we just need to work with parking, because I feel like the price for parking is ridiculously high at a fact. So I want to work on a way to maybe reduce it. That's another thing that I feel like not getting talked enough about. But I'll definitely happily work with the senator, getting at least that reduced, or at least talked about more, so we can figure out making parking better.
Thank you. Candidate DeSalvo.
I kind of brought this up at the beginning, but accessibility for those who are handicapped. I think that's probably one of the main issues that I want to just hit the ground running. And really, it's not talked about because not a lot of people go through it. But the people who go through it, it's really an everyday thing for them. And so I think we need a leader who sees things like that and understands those issues and will address those issues.
Thank you. Alrighty. Once again, another question for all candidates. How are you going to manage your personal time in office, balancing classes and your involvements? We'll begin with candidate Welch.
So during the summer, it's only 15 hours a week, so I do plan on having another job because I won't be in school. But during the school year, I won't be doing a second job. I'll just be doing school and being the Speaker of the Senate, which is 20 hours a week. And I have done something similar before. In high school, my senior year was, I think it was not too long ago, it was a fair amount. I had a job, which is 20 hours a week. I had high school where I had to apply for colleges, and I had to finish on my Eagle project. I did all that fairly well, and I was able to get a 4.0 GPA. So I am able to actually work well under pressure, and I feel like just doing school, university, and doing speaker is as much as what I just stated before. But I do believe I'll be able to balance both those, and I'll be able to get both done in a timely manner and get my 20 hours done to make Senate work well, and be able to go to classes and get my homework done as well.
Thank you. Candidate DeSalvo.
This question was brought up at the vote of confidence as well. And of course, I'm not a STEM major, so my workload isn't insane. But on top of that, I won't have another job if I'm elected as speaker, because being speaker will be my full-time job. I know you're supposed to dedicate 20 hours to it, but when you're serving in a leadership role like that and you are the figurehead, you're working constantly, because what you do kind of reflects the space altogether. And in relation to balancing my school workload and the workload of Speaker of the Senate, I've worked since I was 8 years old, legally since I was 16. But I have experience kind of balancing a 20, 30-hour work week with my school schedule. And so understanding how to do that is important for the speaker role, and I think I bring that to the table.
Thank you. Candidate Correa.
Yes, so I currently work as a resident assistant and I also work at the front desk. So I basically work 2 jobs right now and I'm still able to manage my classes. Before I became an RA, I used to work 20 hours at the good old Jurel Dining Center. If I get elected to this position, I will give my complete and undivided attention to it. So if I do get elected to speaker, I will no longer pursue my other jobs. I will give my undivided attention to this, be in office, be representing students, be talking to college councils, be talking to STPS offices, be talking to directors and deputy directors, have meetings with Joyce McConnell, have meetings with the board of directors, make sure that there is some outcome of those meetings, and also report those outcomes to students. And that's how I like to utilize the 20 hours that my job description as speaker requires me to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last live stream question for the night is: becoming speaker requires a steep and detailed learning curve. What is your plan to be able to lead a coordinated, cohesive, and balanced Senate from day one? And we'll begin with Candidate Correa.
Thank you. Yes, I like to look at myself as a person that is constantly growing. Growth never ends. If somebody tells you that they're not growing anymore and they know everything, they're just lying over there. Growth never ends. I still am growing. I still am learning. I'm making mistakes, but I'm learning from them every day. How I'd like to keep Senate germane from day one, as I said, after fall retreat, usually folks know each and every one. They know what the other person intends to do. I would also like them to share their mission statements and know that their voices over there are to be heard and not to be suppressed, no matter what, as long as it's not an ad hominem attack, no matter what, their voices are to be heard over there. And it's a space where they're representing students, not just themselves, not just their identities, but everybody else's as well. And that's how I'd like them to know that the other person is doing the same thing. And that's how I want to keep Senate make Senate a safe space, make Senate a space where our discussions and debates are germane and they don't switch or deviate from where they're supposed to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate DeSalvo.
It really stems from knowing the Constitution, knowing Robert's rules, and knowing the job description of the senator. Personally, you really have to be a sponge and have to soak up all the information that you possibly can to fulfill that role. And I know of course, ever since I've announced I've been targeted because I am outside of the Senate and I'm not from that space. But none of us have experience being Speaker of the Senate. And of course, experience is the greatest teacher. And so I think when I'm in that position, hit the ground running, soak up the information like a sponge, and roll up my sleeves and get to work and do the good work that the students of CSU deserve.
Candidate Welch.
I fully agree it's a very big learning curve. I think that all candidates will do good. And I know for one thing, over the last year I've learned it is extremely difficult to schedule meetings with people. So once I get elected, I will instantly start scheduling meetings with people to make sure we get stuff done and so I can meet with people and talk about stuff. And over the summer, I will be asking everyone in leadership if they can send me this schedule when they'll be busy, when they won't be, just so I can make a schedule when we can do Commerce Committee, when we can do leadership meet, and also hopefully when they can plan their committees. So I'll be very much working, because I know it's been difficult, one of my first things I'll be doing is setting up times to meet with people, because that has been the hardest obstacle this year, was meeting with people. So I'll be working on that right away. But like the other two candidates, I've read the Constitution, I've read the bylaws, I've read the job descriptions, and I know Robert's Rules of Order. So I do know what's happening. I am aware that it's going to be a bucket of water thrown in my face once I get elected, but I am prepared for that, and I will be ready to work on day one, literally Thursday morning. I'll be working right away after I get elected.
Thank you. A question for all the candidates. How will you build a bridge with the broader Fort Collins community? We'll begin with candidate DeSalvo.
Again, this goes back to my previous experience running for office in my community. You'll really be surprised, especially as a young person, if you're willing to reach out to per se businesses or elected officials. They'll be receptive to your message. And whether the city of Fort Collins likes it or not, there are 30,000 CSU students who aren't going away. we're a big economic driver for this community, and we have a voice. And we have to elect someone who will serve as that voice and kind of the liaison to that broader community. I think since the start, CSU's been an integral part of the Fort Collins community, and like I said, it's not going away. And we need a speaker who understands that, and a speaker who's willing to continue to build those relationships.
Thank you. Candidate Welch?
So this is one thing I'll definitely be working more with the executive, because I know they have a business liaison, so I'll be talking to that person. I'll probably go to meetings of Chamber of Commerce, just to talk to all of them. Also, I plan on trying to meet with every single city council member, and with the mayor, and maybe even with the city manager of Fort Collins, and our representative of the House in Colorado, that seat. And also I'll try to probably meet with Joe Neguse or whoever becomes the representative of this area for the national level, because I know if you reach out and you say who you are, they'll probably try to meet with you, and I think all of them will happily meet with the Speaker of the Senate. Once I meet with all of them, I'll tell them what CSU wants. I'll try to have a good connection with them so we can get stuff done for the year, and when my term ends, I'll hand it over to the next speaker and be like, here's a good connection. Reach out to them right away, and they'll happily talk to you because of the groundwork I created. I'll make sure the next speakers are able to do the same exact thing and be able to be integral to the Fort Collins community.
Thank you. Candidate Correa?
As I said earlier in my debate, and as candidate Evan Welch also pointed out, we do have a liaison whose sole purpose is to represent CSU and ASCSU outside CSU, and I do intend on making full use of that particular position. I'll work with future President Long in ensuring that this position is still there. It's kept in check, not just by Senate, but by his cabinet as well. That way we can ensure that that specific liaison does the job. It's obviously not my job as a speaker to do it, but it's my job as a speaker to enforce that, hey, liaison, it's your job, go do it. It'll be the president's and the cabinet's responsibility in general to do so, and that's how I intend on doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. You're about to DeSalvo?
Yeah, of course it's the job description of the business liaison to reach out to businesses, but I don't think it's good enough to just pass the buck to someone else and expect them to do all the groundwork. If I'm elected to be a figurehead and a leader of CSU, I'm going to represent that in the community abroad, and I think that's important.
Your response?
I thought you said quality over quantity. I don't want to do all the work. I want to make sure that I keep people accountable in their jobs. That's my job as a speaker. It's not to do everything, but to make sure that every position is accountable to the students, and that's how I want to go by it. Thank you.
Thank you. The last question for tonight is, what is the purpose of your position, and why did you choose to run for office? This is for all candidates, and we'll begin with candidate Welch.
So being the Speaker of the Senate means you are one of the figureheads for the student body of CSU. Unlike the president, the vice president, they're more of like, they do everything, but like they also like are the ones that decide what they're gonna do. They tell the directors what to do. As Speaker, I have to listen to what all you say, and I'll be listening to what all the senators have to say, and I'll be working with them to get stuff done. And what was the second part of the question? Sorry, please.
Yeah, of course. Why did you choose to run for office?
And I chose to run for office because I really want, as I said before, I'm very passionate about the CSU community, and I really want to help CSU and ASCSU, and I feel like as Speaker, I can really improve ASCSU and make it, but my goal basically is to plant a tree in the ground. Like, I won't ever get to say it, but I want to make it into an oak tree that all the other future students will be able to get. Even if I don't get the shade, other students will. So basically my goal is to make ASCSU a beacon, like one of the best student governments, and I know I can do that, but with the help of everyone else, so that the next few years it'll be great. Like, my goal is to be a good speaker, but I hope the next 5 speakers are even better than me, because I think ASCSU has much to improve, and each year we will be able to improve.
Thank you. Candidate Correa?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Of course. What is the purpose of your position, and why did you choose to run for office?
The purpose of the speaker is being a liaison. As I said earlier, it's being a liaison between students and the Board of Governors and students and the president, so that if the students want to make a change, want to make a difference on campus, want their voices heard, want their stories heard, then they can come to ASCSU. And I, as speaker, want to represent each and every single voice on campus, regardless of background, regardless of identity. Everyone's welcome. Could you repeat the second half of the question, please?
Yeah, of course. Why did you choose to run for office?
As I pointed out earlier in my debate, I saw the impact that I made as a senator, and I want to make a bigger impact as speaker. I also want to ensure that other senators get equal opportunity, if not more. I need them to get more opportunity to make that impact, make a bigger impact where students are benefited. That's my whole goal. I want students to be benefited, and the only reason I'm running for speaker is I want ASCSU to be more efficient so that we can make student lives better on campus. Thank you.
Thank you. And candidate DeSalvo.
Yeah, as far as what the other candidates said, the job of the speaker is to moderate debate in the Senate space and serve as the figurehead of the Senate in front of President McConnell and the Board of Governors. The reason I ran is because I was being ratified for BSOF at the beginning of the year, and I saw how the Senate operated, and I was encouraged to run by the Director of Finance, Emily Baller. She apparently saw something in me that I could be effective in that space, and I went to a few Senate meetings and I saw how it operated, and I feel like I can make a positive impact. I'm not running for accolades. I'm not running for a title. I'm not running for money. I'm running because I want to make a difference, and I think bottom line, that's what the speaker should be, and so that's why I'm running.
Thank you. Alrighty, thank you all. And with that, we conclude the 2022-2023 debate for the ASCSU Speaker of the Senate elections. Thank you to all the candidates for coming and debating, and to the audience for coming and participating. Voting will be on RamWeb from April 4th from 8 p.m. to April 6th at 4 p.m. Good night, Rams.